Hey guys, welcome back for another video. We got a good one prepared today. What we're going to be doing is we'll be looking at
our college football week 11 predictions.
We are going to go over every single game, break down every matchup, try to predict the outcome to the games, who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what we predict the final score will be. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, please drop them below and I will respond. Every week we go over every single college football games. Today we'll be focusing on our top 25, but we also have videos for the non-top 25, and we also go over every single NFL game every week as well. If you are a football fan, if you are a sports fan, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can follow along with us. We're getting really deep into conference play. Two-thirds of the regular season is now over. Teams are deep in conference play. A lot of consequential games coming up this week. There's really good matchups. Let's go ahead and get started running through them. The very first one we have kicking everything off on ESPN at 12 p.m. We have number 4 Miami Hurricanes 9-0. Undefeated coming off that win versus Duke. They'll be playing Georgia Tech, who comes in here at 5-4. Georgia Tech is really banged up at the quarterback position. Haynes King has missed some time. There's no word yet on if he's going to play this coming Saturday. That's something that we'll have to keep our eye on. But Georgia Tech is the underdog. Right now, Miami is a 76.9% chance to win this game. They are 11-point favorites. The over-under here is 63.5. This was the infamous kneel game from last season when Mario Cristobal did not kneel the ball on that last play. Georgia Tech got a turnover, threw a bomb, and they won the game. Miami, this is a revenge game for them. Georgia Tech didn't do anything wrong last season, but Miami, they want personal revenge. That was a win they had in the books. They gave it up. They want to leave no room for doubt here. Miami right now, they have Cameron Ward, the leading passer for college football. He's closing in on 3,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, 6 picks. He's second place in the Heisman poll right now. Miami, they're averaging 47.4 points a game. Still the number one scoring team. They throw for 383.3. They run for 186.4. They're averaging just shy of 600 yards of offense every game, and they're giving up 22.6 points a game. If you beat Miami, it's going to be via their secondary. They give up just shy of 240 passing yards per game. There's always guys wide open because their DBs take bad angles. They don't tackle very well. So Georgia Tech is going to have to come in here wanting to air the ball out. Georgia Tech, they're averaging 27.7, throwing for 247.8, running for 176.8. Solid defense, giving up 22.4 points a game. Miami has the playmakers. They are healthy. Ward, Martinez, Fletcher, Restrepo, Lyle, Horton, Williams, George. There's multiple weapons, multiple ways they can beat you, and they always play good on defense second half. Very bad first half, but this is a team that wears you down physicality-wise, dominates the second half. I have Miami winning this game, 44-28, but just like their last couple games, the game might be close at halftime. Miami usually plays a pretty sloppy first half, but maybe for once, they'll get a start first quarter or run the score up. But no matter what, I still have Miami pulling out the win. In our next matchup at 12 p.m., we have 4-4 Florida coming off of that close loss to Georgia. They almost had the game, but they lost it in the third quarter. They'll be playing number 5 Texas Longhorns, 7-1. Texas is coming off the bye week, fully rested right now. They needed a bye week. They had that loss to Georgia, and then they had that close win versus Vanderbilt. They needed some time off so that they can concentrate on some of the areas that they were lacking. Right now, the Longhorns are heavy favorites, 90.9% chance to win this game, 21.5 point favorites. That's a massive spread for an in-conference game. The over-under here is 47.5. Florida, they are banged up. They are down Mertz. They're down DJ Lagway. Now they're going to be rolling with their third-string quarterback, Warner, coming in there. He played decent versus the Georgia Bulldogs, but that's just too many quarterbacks to be down. It's not Napier's fault, but Florida's finally getting into that really brutal portion of their schedule. They have the hardest schedule I've ever seen in my life. Napier's on the hot seat right now. They might not get a bowl game this season. They have to take one of these games, but they're going to be playing basically top 15 teams from this point through the end of the season. They might beat Florida State. That's the final game, but no matter what, they're down to their third-string quarterback. That's really at the bottom of the barrel right now. Texas Longhorns, they're still cruising fully healthy right now. Quinn Ewers should be back at the quarterback position. Right now, Florida, they're averaging 29.5. They're giving up 24.9. That defense is playing a lot better than it did last season. But now you're going to be struggling to get first downs and keeping your defense off the field. You're going to Austin. Texas is going to come after you. They want to make up for those last two games. They want to run the score up here. They want a massive win. They have a top 5 roster. They're averaging 37.6, throwing for 309, running for 158, and their defense, a top 10 defense, giving up 11.5 points per game. That's actually a top 5 defense. If they have Ewers, Wisner's, Helm, Bond, everyone's fully healthy. I have the Longhorns winning this game rather easily, taking it 38-17. Then at 12 p.m. on Fox, you have 1-7 Purdue, probably the worst team in the Big Ten. They'll be visiting number 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes, coming in at 7-1. Ohio State coming off of that emotional win versus Penn State. How do they respond here? Now, there's not a chance of them losing this game, but can Ryan Day and company, Knowles, Kelly, keep everyone focused, get the same performance week in and week out? You want to dominate these games, continue to build that resume. You want to be rolling hot right now, potentially leading up to a Big Ten championship rematch with the Oregon Ducks. You don't want to take these games for granted. Keep the wheels churning. Beat these teams down. Right now, the Buckeyes heavy favorites, 99% chance to win this game. They are 37.5 point favorites. The over-under is 53.5. That is a massive spread there, but Purdue's having a lot of issues moving the ball, and they're giving up a lot of points. So everything is setting up right now for the Buckeyes to have a massive win. Purdue, they're averaging 20.3. They throw for 203. They run for 149. But that defense, one of the bottom 10 in the nation, giving up 36.9 points per game. This is the type of game the Buckeyes want. This is a game where they can work some things on their offense, try out some plays, keep everything well-oiled. The Buckeyes are coming in, they're averaging 37.8, throwing for 270.8, running for 186.5, and an elite top 10 defense, probably the most talented defensive roster in the nation, giving up 12 points a game, only 94.9 yards on the ground. It's hard to throw on the Buckeyes. The offensive line for the Buckeyes did really well versus an aggressive Penn State defense. This is a game where they can at least relax. We know they are loaded with playmakers. They have Howard, who's having a great season, closing in on 2,000 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks, but he also has the rushing touchdowns. They have one of the best 1-2 running back punches, Junkins, Henderson. They have Smith. They have Egbuka. Way too much talent. I have the Buckeyes winning this one 44-10. This next matchup's a really tough one. I went back and forth here. On ABC at 3:30 p.m., number 2 Georgia Bulldogs 7-1 versus number 16 Ole Miss coming in at 7-2. Ole Miss, they've already dropped 2 SEC games. You cannot afford to drop another game. You might not make the SEC championship this season, but if you finish the regular season 10-2 coming out of the SEC, you will make the playoffs, but there's zero room for error. Right now, Ole Miss is the favorite, 53.9% chance to win the game. They are the fan favorite, but Georgia comes in as the Vegas favorite, 2.5 point favorite. The over-under here is 54.5. This is a really interesting game. Georgia had the big win versus Texas, and outside of that, they basically looked really shaky. There was the Clemson, there was the Texas game, and those were the outliers. They're coming off of a awful performance versus shorthanded Florida Gators team playing their third-string quarterback. They barely pulled that game out. They only got a couple touchdowns at the very end of the fourth quarter. They're still having issues running the ball. Carson Beck, 8 turnovers the last 3 games. He's closing in on 2,400 yards, 17 touchdowns, 11 picks. They got to get that right. But what about the rushing game? They're only averaging 33.1, throwing for 307.4, running for 132.3. Their strength used to be their run game. What happened to the Georgia run game? Someone has to step up to take some of that pressure. They're way too pass heavy right now. That's not what the Georgia Bulldogs want to be doing. They are giving up 17.3 points a game. That's not bad. That's still a top 20 defense, but Georgia usually lives around that 12 to 14 point per game. Right now, they have Carson Beck, they have Etienne, they have Smith. They have some playmakers, but this is not the offense they've had the last few seasons. Cut down on the turnovers. That's easier said than the Ole Miss defense, because right now they have Jackson Dart closing in on 3,200 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 picks. They looked great this last weekend. They're averaging 42.1. Throwing for 388, running for 178, just shy of 600 yards of offense every game. They're only giving up 13.2 points per game. Georgia has problems running the ball. Ole Miss only gives up 82.2 yards on the ground. They're going to shut down Georgia's run game, force the game on Carson Beck. What kind of game does Carson Beck have? Does he have a turnover game, or does he go back to 2023 Carson Beck? Because you can throw on Ole Miss. They give up 266 passing yards per game. So there will be opportunities to throw, but will he make turnovers? Will he have time to be able to push that ball vertically down the field? I went back and forth here. This game's practically a pick 'em to me, 50-50. I don't want to go anywhere near this game, but I'm going to go with Ole Miss winning it. I have the upset. They take it 30-27. Low confidence in that, though. This game could go either way. This could be the Georgia Bulldogs game where they play great. They've played ranked teams very well this season. They've played unranked teams very poorly. And then at 3:30 p.m. on CBS, the 5-4 Michigan Wolverines, the defending national champions, they're still having issues on offense. They're still shuffling quarterbacks. Orji, Warren. They did look a little better second half this past weekend versus the Ducks, but still a lot of issues moving the ball. They're very run reliant. They'll be playing fresh to the top 10, number 8, undefeated, 8-0. Indiana. Right now, the Hoosiers have an 86.8% chance to win this game. 14-point favorites versus the defending champs. The over-under here is 48.5. Michigan has the problems throwing the ball vertically down the field, but they still have Loveland there. Loveland's a massive weapon, the best tight end in the country, but he doesn't have someone who can consistently push the ball to him. Right now, they're only averaging 21 points a game. They throw for 143, a bottom 10 passing team in the nation right now. That's not good. If they do run for 165, their defense is giving up 23.3. They don't have a bad defense, but they don't have that national championship level defense they had last season, and they brought back 5 starters on their defense. So there's a lot of issues there, but they're on the field a lot because the offense can't get first downs. For Indiana, the number 2 total offense in the nation right behind Miami. They average 46.6. They throw for 289. They run for 191.9, and they have a top 10 defense giving up 13.7 points a game. Michigan loves to run the ball. They have Mullings, they have Edwards, but Indiana only gives up 72.6 on the ground. So it's strength on strength. The game is going to be decided at the line of scrimmage. Who gets the most push? Indiana's shown they are built to compete in the Big Ten. Props to Cignetti. He's completely flipped this roster in one season. Rourke is fully healthy. They have Ellison, Surratt. I have the Hoosiers winning this one, 34-20. Then at 3:30 p.m. on Fox Sports, number 17 Iowa State 7-1. They had that loss this past weekend versus Texas Tech that dropped them all the way down to 17. How do they respond from that loss? How does Matt Campbell regroup the team? Everything is still in front of them. They only have one loss, one conference loss. If they win out, they're going to make the Big 12 championship. If you win that, you still make the playoffs. There's no need to panic right now. Just take every game from this point, game by game, and you can still make the playoffs. They'll be playing Kansas at 2-6. A lot of people had Kansas competing for the Big 12 this season. Things completely went way off the rails for the Jayhawks. Right now, Iowa State, 55% chance to win this game, but only a 3-point favorite. The over-under here is 50.5. For Iowa State, this is a team built by Matt Campbell in the trenches. They have a great defense, a physical defensive line. Becht having a good season, closing in on 2,100 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. Daniels for Kansas, he's finally healthy. He was supposed to light it up this season. He's taken a massive step backwards, closing in on 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. Way too many turnovers. That's something that's been haunting Kansas the whole season. Right now for Iowa State, they're averaging 30.5, throwing for 264.6, running for 179.4. A great offense this season for them, and they're only giving up 15.5 points a game. You can run on Iowa State, though. They are a very physical team, but teams have had success running on them. Kansas can run the ball. So they're averaging 30, throwing for 204.9, running for 211.6. They've not had issues moving the ball. It's turnovers, and turnovers in the red zone has kept them out of the red zone, and their defense is giving up 24.6. They have Daniels. They have Neal, a top 10 running back. Like I said, Iowa State gives up yardage on the ground. Look for Kansas to ground and pound, keep the ball in Neal's hands. Hopefully that'll open up some play action. But if it does, Kansas can't get the play action and then throw an interception with it. Take what's given to you, ground and pound, throw only when you have to throw. Make sure to keep the turnovers down, play a clean game. But no matter what, I have Iowa State winning this one, rebounding from that loss last week. They take this one 28-23. This next one's going to be a fun one at 3:30 p.m. on ESPN. Number 18 Army, 8-0 undefeated. They lost daily this past weekend, and still they found a way to win the game. They were not able to light it up like they usually do on offense. They did just enough to win, and their defense stepped up massive. They have a top 10 defense. They got physical. They ran that triple option, kept the ball out of their opponent's hands. They won the day, but they'll be playing North Texas here, who's 5-3, a very competitive team. Chandler Morris, very familiar with the air raid. North Texas runs the air raid, runs it very successfully. This is a good offense. If Army doesn't have Daly, or if he plays but he's not 100%, North Texas at home could potentially pull a massive upset here. But right now, Army has a 62.2% chance to win this game, and they are 6-point favorites. North Texas here, the over-under is 63.5. Army, they're averaging 37.9 points a game. They throw for 95. They're running for 340.1 yards every single game. This is the number one rushing offense in the nation. They run the triple option. They keep the ball out of their opponent's hands, suck up clock. The defense is a top 10, giving up 11.3 points a game, only 84 yards on the ground. But North Texas, they're not going to scoff at that. They can throw it. They can run it. They're averaging 40.8 every game. That's a top 10 offense. They throw for 379.5 yards. They run for 156. But that defense is atrocious. They give up 36.9 points a game, 177.4 on the ground. Army loves to ground and pound with that triple option. They're going to look to keep it out of Chandler Morris's hands, run the ball every single down, 10 to 12 minute possessions every time they possess the ball. Keep North Texas's offense off the field. Maybe that will throw their offense off for the duration of the 4-quarter game. I have Army pulling out the win here. I'd be a little more confident if we know that Daly's playing, but I have Army winning this one 33-24. But this is a game to watch as a potential upset alert. Then on ESPN at 3:30 p.m., number 19 Clemson coming in here at 6-2. Everyone's been praising Clemson, saying how great they were. I said Clemson's giving up way too many points on defense. I don't care. Klubnik's playing well. Maffa, Williams. This isn't the Clemson defense of old. Lo and behold, they got drug up and down the field by Louisville this past week. Got their second loss. How do they respond? They have the number 8 overall roster. Dabo Swinney, offense does look better year 2 under Riley, but they don't have the playmakers. Dabo will not work the portal. Defense is not the Clemson defense of the last decade. You can torch Clemson's defense, especially vertically down the field. They'll be playing 5-4 Virginia Tech. They have a solid chance to get an upset here, but right now they're the underdog. Clemson, 52.6% chance to win this game. 6.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 53.5. Clemson, they have Klubnik closing in on 2,100 yards, 21 touchdowns, 3 picks. Virginia Tech has Drones, and he can go mobile. He can scramble, run the ball. They're closing in on 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. Clemson, they average 39.4. They throw for 288.6, run for 202.6. The defense is giving up 24.2 points a game. And for Virginia Tech, they're averaging 30.8, throwing for 198, running for 201.4. They love to run the ball. This is going to be Virginia Tech's offensive line versus the Clemson defensive line, and they're giving up 22.3. They have Tootin at the running back position, one of the best running backs in the nation, a top 10 back, closing in on 1,000 yards through the first 9 games. The game is going to be on his shoulders. Can Virginia Tech establish the run? If they do, will Clemson be able to score enough to outscore Virginia Tech? This game could easily turn into a shootout, but I have Clemson ultimately getting back on track in the win column, pulling this one out 32-24. And then at 4 p.m. on Fox, number 21 Colorado 6-2 versus 6-3 Texas Tech, who just upset Iowa State. Can they keep that momentum going? Right now, Colorado 3.5-point favorites. The over in here is 62.5. This game is going to be a shootout. Plain and simple, going to be a shootout. I flip-flop back and forth because this game is probably going to come down to the final possession. Who has the ball last is probably going to win this game. That's hard to project out right now, but there's going to be some great offensive play here. For Colorado, they have Sanders closing in on 2,600 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. But Morton's right behind him, closing in on 2,400 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. Both teams can move the ball. Colorado, very pass-heavy. Texas Tech can establish the run. They have a great running back. Colorado, they're averaging 31.4, throwing for 349.4, running for 80.6. Their defense much improved over last season. They're giving up 22 points a game. For Texas Tech, they can score some points, but they have an awful defense, but they did play well this past weekend. Their offense, they average 36.4. They throw for 293.3. They run for 164, but that defense gives up 34.4 points per game, 315 through the air. That does not bode well coming into this game playing the Colorado Buffaloes. They have Sanders, they have Travis Hunter, they have Horn, they have a great young wide receiver core. There's going to be guys open the whole game. Look for a big game from Sanders, Travis Hunter, Horn. But Texas Tech, they should be able to keep up with Colorado. Taj Brooks, a top 5 running back, closing in on 1,100 yards. Kelly at the receiver position. They have weapons. They can pull the upset here, but I have Colorado having the ball last. Again, winning it at the end of the fourth. They take this one 37-34, but this is going to be a fun one to watch. Then at 7 p.m. on the Big Ten Network, 4-4 Maryland versus number 1 Oregon Ducks, 9-0 undefeated. They finally got all 62 first-place votes in the AP poll. They have a 93.5% chance to win this game. 25-point favorites here, massive in-conference favorites. The over-under here is 57.5. For Maryland, they average 28.6 per game. They have Edwards Jr. is closing in on 2,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, 6 picks. They have a great passing offense. They're throwing for 330.8, running for 119, but that defense gives up 27.8. As of right now, the Ducks have the leading Heisman frontrunner, Dylan Gabriel, closing in on 2,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 picks. He also has 6 rushing touchdowns. He's a mobile quarterback, but he always keeps his eye down the field. They have a top 5 roster. Pull the starters early. There's no reason to leave them in. You're set right now to make it to the Big Ten Championship. You want to make sure you have your team healthy. They're averaging 35.3, throwing for 308.8, running for 168.1, and only giving up 15.8 points a game. Top 10 offense, top 10 defense. They have the playmakers. Gabriel, James, Johnson, Stewart. I have the Ducks cruising here, winning this one 38-17. Like I said, pull those starters fourth quarter. No reason to leave them in. And then at 7 p.m. on ESPN, we have 2-7 Mississippi State, probably the worst team in the SEC, versus number 17 Tennessee Volunteers, 7-1. Tennessee has a 93.9% chance to win this game. 24-point favorites. That is a massive favorite for Tennessee because they've had issues getting over 28 points a game the last 6 SEC conference games, but they are 24-point favorites. The over under here is 61.5. Tennessee, we know they have a great roster. We know Josh Heupel, one of the best offensive minds in all of college football. Jeff Lebby, he's having to completely flip this roster. They're averaging 29.1. They have Burn Jr. at the quarterback position, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 picks. They throw for 275. They run for 143, but that defense is pretty bad, giving up 34.6 points a game. Can Tennessee use this opportunity playing a really bad defense to catapult their offense forward? They had a great showing their first 34 games. They've fallen off the rails since then. Maybe this is the chance where they see what works, get everything back on track. Nico's had a lot of issues at the quarterback position since they got into SEC play. If you pressure him, he tends to overthrow wide open receivers. He's closing in on 1,700 yards, 9 touchdowns, 4 picks. They're averaging 38.1, throwing for 249, running for 235. Very balanced offense, probably the most balanced offense in the country. And they have a top 10 defense, giving up 12.4 points per game. Top 10 in pressure, top 10 in sacks. They can live off their defense. They don't even need that many points from their offense. The defense can carry the day for Tennessee. Very well-rounded team. I have their offense getting some things back on track. The defense generating some turnovers. Tennessee wins this one 38-16, and they have a complete performance on both sides of the ball. And then on NBC at 7:30, 1-8 Florida State. 1-8 Florida State started out the season top 10. Now they have zero chance of even looking towards any type of bowl game. They might not win a game for the rest of the season. They have to play number 10 Notre Dame, 7-1. The Irish have a 96.5% chance to win this game, 26.5-point favorites. The over-under is 42.5. This is probably the worst falling off the rails I've ever seen in my college football watching life. Florida State right now has the number 133rd offense out of 134 college football teams. They're averaging 14.4 points a game. They throw for 208. They run for 76.1. They're only averaging about 284 total offensive yards every single game in the ACC, and they're giving up 27.3. Their strength was supposed to be their run defense. They're giving up just shy of 200 yards on the ground every single game. They get torched up and down the field, and they're going to play a top 10 defense this weekend. It's going to get ugly. Right now, the Irish are averaging 36.6. They throw for 198. They run for 216.5. They love to run the ball. Mobile quarterback with Leonard, and they have Love at the running back position. They're going to feast here. Their defense only gives up 12.1 points per game. They're not going to have to worry about this game being close, but Notre Dame wants some style points. They want to make sure to continue to rise in that poll. They don't want to take any chances. Zero room for error. They have no conference championship. They cannot lose another game. Right now for Florida State, they're going to try to run the ball. Douglas also has to step up, but Notre Dame look for a steady dose of Love, Collins, Leonard. I have Notre Dame winning this one handedly, 37-13. And for another massive game, this game is also practically a 50-50 at 7:30 p.m. on ABC. One of the games of the weekend. Number 11 Alabama 6-2 versus number 14 LSU 6-2. Both of these teams have 2 losses. Both cannot afford to lose another game. If they drop one more, they're out of the running for the playoffs. So each of them has a chance to knock the other one off. They have to love that right now. Their fans should be really excited. Kalen DeBoer got everyone back on track 2 weeks ago. They had the bye week, but LSU also had the bye week. Both teams are rested. Both teams are ready for this game. Kalen DeBoer versus Brian Kelly. This is a great matchup. We have Jalen Milroe on one side throwing the ball, running the ball. They have a multiple offense. Can they play a clean turnover game? Defense stepped up their last game. They have to continue to play well. They have the number 1 overall roster. They average 37.6 points a game. They throw for 270.3, run for 177.6. Their defense is actually statistically the worst Alabama defense since 2004, but they're only giving up 18.6 points a game. They have to continue to dominate. We need to see Alabama own the line of scrimmage. They haven't really dominated there this whole season. We need to see them continue to build on that physicality. For LSU, they have Nussmeier. He's the leading SEC passer, closing in on 2,700 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 picks. He can throw the Tigers to victory. This is a very close game. Alabama 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 58.5. There's going to be some points here. For LSU, they're averaging 32.8, throwing for 337.8, running for 115.3. A lot hinges on that passing game. If Bama can somehow shut down the passing game, it's going to be a hard day for the Tigers. But that's obviously easier said than done. And their defense under Blake Baker doing a lot better than it did last season. They're giving up 22.8. For Bama, they have Milroe, Miller, Williams, a great freshman. And for LSU, they have Nussmeier, Durham, Lacey. This game is going to be close. It could come down to the typical Alabama LSU fourth quarter performance. I have Alabama winning a close one here, taking this one 28-24. And then at 8 p.m. on Fox, 3 and 7 Nevada, they'll be playing number 12 Boise State 7-1, leading the group of 5. If Boise State wins every single game, they're going to find themselves in the playoffs. They're leading the group of 5 right now. Everything is in front of them. They just have to continue to perform. Every game has been blowout for the last 4 to 5 weeks. They're playing solid right now on both sides of the ball. They have a 94.3% chance to win this game. 24-point favorite, so over-under is 60.5. They haven't had a letdown performance yet. Their only loss was a really close loss versus number 1 Oregon Ducks in Eugene, Oregon. Right now for Nevada, they're averaging 24.6. Lewis closing in on 1,600 yards, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks. They're throwing for 210. They're running for 188. Their defense is giving up 28.6. 156 on the ground. We know Boise State loves to run the ball. They have the best running back in the country. They have Ashton Gentry. He's having a great season so far. He's lighting things up, putting up video game numbers. They're averaging 45.8. Throwing for 245, running for 168, and their defenses look solid the last 3 or 4 games, giving up 25.6. Matson had a great game this past game. He's closing in on 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 2 picks. But when you have Gentry, he's closing in on 1,600 yards. He has 21 total touchdowns. It is crazy. He carries the game. His presence completely opens up the play action. It forces every team to have to stack that line. Boise State can throw, and they will throw on you. I have Boise State winning this one 42-14. And then at 8 p.m. on Peacock, 5-4 Washington coming off that win versus the Trojans. They have a good defense. You don't want to sleep on them. They'll be playing number 6 Penn State, 7-1, coming off of that close loss versus the Buckeyes. Both teams have experienced veteran quarterbacks. For Washington, they have Will Rogers closing in on 2,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. And for Penn State, Drew Aller closing in on 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Washington does leave a lot to be desired on offense. They're averaging 23.6. They're throwing for 294. They're running for 148, but it's that defense, a top 20 defense, giving up 19 points a game. That defense does travel. It can keep you in any game, can't keep any game as a one-possession game. Give your offense enough time to potentially find the end zone. But for Penn State, their offenses look pretty questionable. They brought in a new coordinator. They have a great 1-2 running back punch. Allen, Singleton, very talented team, top 10 defense. But the offense, when it matters most at the line of scrimmage, cannot get the push they need. They're averaging 30.8, throwing for 259, running for 188, but that defense is only giving up 15 points a game. That's a national championship caliber defense. Penn State, even though they lost to the Buckeyes, they only have one loss. Everything's in front of them right now. If the Buckeyes drop one more somehow, Penn State's going to be playing the Ducks in the Big Ten Championship. But no matter what, if they win out, they're making the playoffs regardless. If they lose one more and they finish the season 10-2, they're still going to make the playoffs coming out of the Big Ten. You just have to win at least 3 of the next 4 games, and you're in no matter what. I have Penn State winning this one in a lower scoring game, 28-17. Now let's go to some ACC play on the ACC network at 8 p.m. 4-4 Virginia versus number 23 Pitt, 7-1, coming off of that loss to SMU. They got beat down bad, but hey, props to Pitt, props to Narduzzi. He brought in a new coordinator. This is a completely new offense. They brought in a Holstein from Alabama. They are slinging it up and down the field. They only have one loss, one conference loss. They could still be a dark horse to potentially make the ACC championship. They have a 76.4% chance to win this game, 7-point favorites. The over-under's 57.5 for Virginia. They have Caldrea at quarterback, closing in on 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 6 picks. And Holstein for Pitt, closing in on 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, 6 picks. Virginia, they're averaging 26.3, throwing for 287, running for 140. Defense gives up 27.6. Pitt, one of the best offenses in the nation, one of a top 5 for the ACC. They average 38.9. Throwing for 306, running for 154, and that defense is giving up 25.3 points a game. We know that Narduzzi, when it comes down to it, he's more than capable of getting a great defensive performance. Pitt has a loaded, talented team. Holstein, Reed, Mumfield, they win this one 38-24. And we almost skipped the next one. How could we forget about it on the SEC network at 4:15? 5-3 South Carolina. What a performance they had this past weekend. If they win this one, they will be in the top 25. Props to Shane Beamer. I said last week, South Carolina always, for some reason, is capable of upsetting top 10 teams. They'll be playing number 24, Vanderbilt, 6-3. Welcome back to the top 25. South Carolina is the favorite here. 3.5-point favorites. They have a 58.9% chance to win this game. The over-under is 45.5. Great performance from Sellers. He's a multiple quarterback. He can throw it. He can run it. Right now he's closing in on 1,300 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks, and he can also add 4 rushing touchdowns to that. And for Vanderbilt, they have Diego Pavia. He's been lighting things up. He's had great performances in their biggest games, Texas, Bama. He's closing in on 1,700 yards, 15 passing touchdowns, 3 picks, and you can also add, I think 4 rushing touchdowns to that. Really great season so far. The Gamecocks are averaging 30.5, throwing for 223, running for 177, only giving up 18.9 points a game. That's a top 20 defense. This is a great team, and they love to upset ranked teams. Vanderbilt, they're averaging 30.3, throwing for 199.9, running for 148, and also a solid defense, giving up 21 points per game. This is going to be a close game. We have 2 teams fighting for that top 25 spot. If Vanderbilt wins it, they stay in. If the Gamecocks win it, they catapult themselves into the top 25. I have the upset. I have the Gamecocks winning this one, pulling off an upset fourth quarter, taking it 28-24. And then at 8:15, a late one on ESPN, number 9, BYU coming off the bye. They're undefeated, 8-0. Everything's in front of them for the Big 12. Can they maintain that momentum right now? You only have 4 games left, and you're undefeated. Props to them. They'll be playing Utah 4-4. A lot of teams had them favored to win the Big 12 to make the playoffs, but Cam Rising has held this team hostage. He gets hurt every single game. Now he's out for the season, for the 15th straight season. BYU with that 59.5% chance to win this game, and they are 4-point favorites. The over-under here is 41.5. BYU, very talented team. They live off turnovers, so if they don't generate turnovers, are they still going to be able to pull one of these close physical games out? Because Utah still, Kyle Whittingham, great coach, a very physical team. This game is potentially setting up to be an upset. BYU, they're averaging 35.1. Throwing for 249, running for 169, giving up 19.6 points a game. That's a top 20 defense. And for Utah, They're averaging 22.8 points a game. That is awful. Wilson is not Cam Rising, but he's still a freshman. He's really young, and BYU has Retzlaff. But Retzlaff carries a lot of the things here. He's no longer the leading rusher, but he has a lot of pressure on him. Can BYU continue to give him the short field? For Utah, they average 239 passing, 150.9 on the ground. They have a great running game led by Bernard. He's closing in on 800 yards, but he's practically the entire offense so far this season. But a top 15 defense giving up 16.5 points a game. That defense at home could turn this game into an upset. Can Utah keep their turnovers down, play solid defense? They win this game. No matter what, I think this is a low-scoring game. I have BYU pulling off a close one, 20-16. But this is one you got to watch because Utah can punch you in the mouth, beat you at the line of scrimmage, and win this game close. And our final game at 10:30 p.m. on the CW Network, 2-6 Utah State versus number 20 Washington State, 7-1. Washington State coming off the bye. They have a 94% chance to win this game, 20.5 point favorites. The over-under here is 69.5. There's going to be some points scored in this one. Probably not by Utah State, though. They have the worst defense in the nation. Right now, they have Petras at the quarterback position, closing in on 1,900 yards, 13 touchdowns, 7 picks. And Washington State has Mateer, who's lighting it up through the air and on the ground, closing in on 2,200 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. He also has 10 rushing touchdowns, 28 total touchdowns for him. What a great offense they have. For Utah State, they're averaging 27.8, throwing for 307.6, running for 157, but that defense is giving up 41.5 points a game. That is crazy bad. Washington State's offense is going to feast this game. They're averaging 38.1, throwing for 300.9, running for 168.4, and they're giving up 26.9 points a game. They have Mateer throwing it, running it. They have Williams at the receiver position. I have Washington State winning this one 44-20. So that's our breakdown. That's our predictions for all of our Week 11 college football matchups for the 2024 college football season. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, drop them below and I will respond. Thank you.